operating in, that has to change. And we did manage to have a few people present with us. And it's difficult. I saw as people were greeting each other, the tendency is to give each other hugs or to shake hands, but that also has had to change. But anyhow, we will make do and we will proceed with the work that needs to be done. This morning, we have a few speakers with us that will just share with us on their journey and their experiences working with women leadership. I think the project that we launch is something that is very close to heart for us as HIVOS. It will continue the work that we've been doing under another program, the Women Empowered for Leadership. So it really indeed is a great opportunity to continue the work and be able to work with women leaders and young girls. I think especially the girls part, because we have seen girls really taking up their space and showing that they're ready to lead. So any support that they can get in order to actually get them to where they need to be is something special. I also would like to say a special welcome to our friends in the media. We have walked the journey again on women leadership together. As we say, for us, media is a key partner, because without them creating the space and enabling space for women's voices to be heard, we really are not able to get those women to be known by the citizens or by the members of the public in the spaces that they're leading. So for that, we just would like to say thank you. To get us started, I'm going to invite this morning the regional director for HIVOS Southern Africa, Ms. Tanya Lubers, to give us the welcome speech and also share with us just, I think, a brief background on the project. Tanya, thank you.
Thanks, Damutsai, and welcome once more to HIVOS offices where we haven't been for a long time, apart from a quick in and out to print something or scan something, and I think you all recognize, we're all working from home. And having said that, welcome, Ambassador, from your home in Ireland. It's really a pleasure to have you here, and I would like to thank you very much. Through you, Ambassador, I would like to thank the Irish government for supporting women's empowerment across the world, and especially here in Zimbabwe, where it's so important. And we're really pleased with the support. As Tambu said, we've been running a program called Women Empowered for Leadership in the last 5 years. And that program is building, in fact, of decades of our work together with women's movement in the country. I remember when I arrived here in 2013, a study was being done on women's movement in Zim since independence, and I was delighted to see then how important a role HIVOS has played in supporting women's movements. So that's been for decades. And since we're now project funded like most organizations and we don't have institutional support, we can't continue any project if we don't find a particular donor. So really thanks, Ambassador and colleagues in the embassy for your support, because our current program is coming to an end this year. We run it in 5 countries, 2 in the Middle East and 3 in the region, Malawi, Zambia and Zimbabwe. It's coming to an end, but we're really happy we can continue here in Zimbabwe with the generous support. And I'm also happy to have an event, though small and on distance, to connect with all the great women of Zimbabwe again, online, offline. I really miss that interaction that makes our work so special, to really connect with those that advocate for change, that are out there to make sure that there's gender equality in Zimbabwe. So it's really great to reconnect again instead of sitting behind your desk and in the homes, doing your administrative tasks only, and reading. But this kind of interaction is so important, and I really think that's one of the big losses among many others that we are faced with in Corona times. Women empowerment programs are also especially important now, the number of gender-based violence, of isolation, is unfortunately growing, and as in every crisis, it's always the marginalized who suffer most, and unfortunately it's still us women who are marginalized. And on a personal note, this is also my last event for HIVOS Southern Africa. I will be moving to HIVOS Latin America, so still with HIVOS, still working on women empowerment, sexual rights, transparency, climate change, all the topics we have been working on and will be working on here. I will be also working on there, so still very connected. And as I said, on a personal note, like especially the Women Empowerment Program is very close to my heart. Being a woman myself, having to fight my way up, having to articulate myself as I want to articulate myself, dress myself as I want to dress myself. I know the struggle, I'm with you, and for me it's always been very great to connect with the women's organizations of Zimbabwe, with each and every one of you personally. I'm still puzzled about like what is the role of women really in Zimbabwe, but that also makes it very interesting, no? Like you have all the cultural issues that make it hard for most of us to really grow and blossom. And at the same time, I've met so many important women, powerful women like yourselves, who are articulate. I remember very well that when I came here, I didn't expect that at all. I had all the prejudice that a white European woman will have about women in Zimbabwe, reading about the marginalized position. You expect almost like everybody's very shy. No, not at all. You're very articulate, you're very loud. It's been great to work with you, and I hope we stay in touch. And to not outshine the fact that this is a project, it's not about my farewell. I wish you all the best in your struggle for equality. I think we're almost there, no? Like there's still a way to go. But if I look at the program that's on the one hand builds capacity and on the other hand like prepares society to look maybe differently at the role of women, I think the latter is more important. Like capacity is there, intellect is there, education is there. It's probably most of all regaining our confidence, even if you're bashed or bullied, to stand strong in the storm that is out there. But capacity is definitely there. And I wish you all the best, and I hope when I come back to visit next year, or when is elections? 2023? Like half of parliament and half of government will be women, and that you're even more visible in public life than you've been so far. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tanya. I think as Tanya was saying that it was very good to come and find that the women in Zimbabwe are very articulate and they really stand up for themselves. The interesting joke in the office here is that a lot of the times when they walk into the office and they see a strange face that they don't know, they always say, "Are you Tambudzai's partner?" Because it's the women that come and they feel welcome. They go and prepare themselves a drink, a cup of tea, because they feel this is home. So for me, I think it's something that we are proud of, that we do work with partners that really see us as an equal. They don't really, separate themselves from us. And where they feel we actually are going off track, they come back and they challenge us. And that's something that I've always appreciated about my journey working with the women's organizations in Zimbabwe. Next up, I'm going to invite our next speaker, Imelda Viriri. Imelda is a cultivator of lives with an honors degree in psychology and a master's in development studies. She's the founding director of Cultivate Africa. She is chairperson of the Young Women's Forum of the Women's Coalition of Zimbabwe and co-chair of SADC Zimbabwe Chapter. She was recently selected as one of the national youth gender advocates for the UN Women's Generation Equality. She's an award winner of the 2018 10 Outstanding Young Persons in Zimbabwe by JSI. She's also an author and transformational speaker. Imelda, I'd like to welcome you to this space. She will also speak to us. As I said, we've got young leaders amongst us that are really taking, the baton forward. And Imelda is one such woman. Welcome, Imelda.
Good morning, everyone. Are you smiling inside the mask? Just checking, huh? Thank you so much. All protocols observed. I'd like to thank Hivos for giving me an opportunity to also share my experiences, as well as inspiring, leaders here and leaders at home who are women. And I'll start today with an introduction of a story, and it's called the Elephant Robe story. So one day, let's use Tambu today. Tambu was walking in a game park, and she saw an elephant, a huge elephant, tied to a small tree with a small rope. But the elephant could not break free. And her question was, how can this powerful animal not break free? The warden then explained that when this elephant was young, it was tied to the same tree with the same rope. In psychology, we talk about conditioning. And the elephant was made to believe that it could not break free. And that's the same thing with women. Society has made it such that we think we cannot do certain things. You're told you cannot lead, you cannot speak, you cannot. So today I hope somebody gets to emancipate themselves first in the mind, to understand that female is just but biology. We can also do it. Now, leading as a woman in Zimbabwe has been challenging. I think we're all aware of the shrinking civic space, the issues of the economy, which leads more to economic dependence, more than us actually getting to a point where we are financially free. We have issues such as the strains that accompany unpaid care work as women, and there's so many other things that make it difficult to lead as a woman. But as a young woman leader, I'm continually learning and relearning as I navigate this VUCA environment. And when we talk about the VUCA, it's the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment. And I think 2020 has really shown us that it can be uncertain. COVID came, and there's so many challenges that have come with that. But leadership requires us to see with the mind's eye, to quickly adapt, find new solutions, new ways of doing things, and adopt agility. But for me, before looking at public victory, we need to talk about private victory in terms of personal leadership as a woman leader. And I'll speak more to that as I wrap up. And as a young leader, I've seen the power of mentorship. I see our mentors here. Mam Nyaradza is here. I saw Virginia Mwanigwa here. There's mentorship, the networks that we have tapped into as young people. Being proactive is also something that I've seen that has power and continuous improvement. But as we continue to push for the realization of goal number 5 on gender equality, we need to keep reminding ourselves that this cannot be achieved if we leave half of the population effectively silenced. We need to do more work on ensuring that more young leaders come, young women leaders arise, and women in the women's movement space. But as we are launching this program today, I just want to leave a bit of encouragement to women leaders. And I've summed it up in 5 A's. To say, as women leaders, let's be authentic. When we adopt authenticity, we don't have to compete. I know a lot of people like to talk about the puller down syndrome. I don't subscribe to that. I subscribe to the puller up, because that's what I've seen. So let's be authentic and run in our lanes as we make impact for generation equality, for fostering gender equality. And also, the second one is agility. Change will always be there, but let's be agile leaders who are quick to adapt and find new ways of doing things, and in this case, of leading. And then the third one is action. Remembering what Tony Robbins said, that knowledge is not power, it's potential power. What's actual power is the action. So let's take the work beyond boardrooms, conferences, etc., and actually do the action. And the fourth one is accountability. Let's realize that our individual actions will affect the collective action. Let's be accountable to self and also have others keep us accountable. And then the fifth A, which is the last one, is the A game. Let's always put our best foot forward. Let's continually improve. The Japanese talk about the Kaizen concept, where you continually improve. Let's learn more. Let's tap into the wisdom of others who've walked the journey. And then lastly, I'll say, let's carry our folding chairs. I always use this quote by Shelley Chisholm. She says, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. So we've got to always carry our folding chairs, especially as women leaders in this kind of environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Imelda, for those very wonderful words. I think words that really find meaning in our journey as we walk in our leadership journey, especially these times where it actually calls for us to adapt to whatever that is thrown our way, but ensure that we remain on track in the work that we're doing around gender equality. I'm going to invite our next speaker, our keynote speaker this morning, somebody that to most does not need an introduction, but for the benefit of those especially online and those not based in Zimbabwe, I would take a minute just to introduce Dr. Nyaradzai Gumbonjanda. Dr. Nyaradzai Gumbonjanda is the founder and chief executive of Rosario Memorial Trust, the organization she founded in memory of her late mother based in Murewa, Zimbabwe. So thank you very much for taking that drive from Murewa to join us this morning. Dr. Gumbonjanda is the Africa Union's Goodwill Ambassador on ending child marriage since 2014. She's a Zimbabwean national, and she's a trained human rights lawyer with extensive experience of work with girls and young women, as well as in conflict resolution and mediation. For almost 30 years, she has worked on issues on women and children's rights, especially violence against women, health, HIV, and AIDS. She has extensive work experience at local, regional, and international level. She served as World YWCA General Secretary for almost 10 years, responsible for 120 countries and reaching 25 million women and girls. She has extensive work with the UN, where she worked for a decade with UNICEF and UNIFEM, now UN Women. She served as a member of UN Commission on Accountability for Women and Children's Health and was a member of WHO, Director General Advisory Group on Ebola. She also served as a member of the UN Civil Society Advisory Group on Women, Peace and Security. She served on many civil boards, including Civicus, Save the Children UK. She is the current chairperson of Action Aid International. Nyaradzai is also a member of External Advisory Group of the Managing Director of IMF. She is a member of the Steering Committee for the African Women's Leadership Network, Leaders Network, as well as the Gender is My Agenda campaign. In Zimbabwe, she was among the founders of the Women and Land Lobby Group, the Zimbabwe Women Lawyers Association, and she is the chair of the COVID Frontline Responders Group for the Women's Coalition. She loves poetry, and I will add that she's also mother to Farida. You left that important one. That's something that is very close to my heart. So we welcome you this morning, and we'll just have a few words from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, our host. Yes, does it spread to the? No, you can take it. No, Tanya, we loved you being here. We enjoyed you being here. Thank you for your leadership and congratulations on your new role. We wish you the very best. Zimbabwe is home to you, and you know that, and we know that. Welcome back. And we say great as we send you off. Thank you so much for hosting and being here. Kennedy, we know that there's no vacuum. An individual, a government, anybody invests in women, they're investing in humanity. It's not about women leading, it's about women leading for society to have rights, equality and dignity. Thank you so much to the government of Ireland. Just listening to you, Imelda, I just felt the bubbles. I was bubbling inside. Our leadership is not sustainable unless if it is intergenerational. And unless we recognize and affirm that young women are leading now and they are not leaders of tomorrow. They are part of the decision makers every day. And that we must recognize and appreciate. I rarely write my speech. Today I had to put some notes down because it's such an important day. So Let me start by the very personal. The last 15 months has been the most difficult of my life when my daughter was arrested as part of the Zimbabwe 7. And I knew that this is just a young woman who is seeking to be a leader in her own right, striving to get knowledge, to get expertise, and to contribute to a country. And there I am as a mother who is leading an organization, who is part of the diplomatic space within the African Union as a goodwill ambassador, who is an activist in my own right. And at the same time, knowing that the lioness is wounded. When a lioness is wounded, it doesn't just scream. It navigates the terrain in order to protect its cubs. Leadership is not always about screaming all the time. There's a time we scream. There's a time we strategize. There's a time we negotiate. There's a time we insist we negotiate. There's a time we insist on justice. There's a time you celebrate all that will stand with you. So today I just want to say thank you. Thank you to Zimbabwe. Thank you to all the women, men in this country, in Africa and globally, who have supported not just Farirai, but all those who were the human rights defenders who were arrested with here, but who are standing with all that are unjustly under arrest and unjustly detained. Standing up for justice is leadership, and it's not easy, and I'll speak to that later. So for this moment, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you. She Leads has 3 objectives when I received the brief. One is that it's about women's participation in positional political decision making. So it's very clear it's about holding public office. And secondly, it is about women participating in decision making in society. And in society is a concept which goes beyond public office. In society could mean in my church, it could mean part of the school development committee, it could mean being in the boardroom of that other organization or company. Being in society could mean that you are one of the top scientists who are advising on COVID. You are a decision maker, you are influencing. And therefore, we need, as we launch this program, to say we have at times defined the notion of women in decision making narrowly, without sufficiently celebrating that every woman is a leader and every woman is leading where she is. We just need to define the collective power of that influence and the collective power of the change that women are making where they are. So yes, we must have the 50-50 as per constitution. But yes, beyond positional power, to influence, and to influence in the multiple spaces that we are in. This project is speaking about strengthening networks and platforms. And I live in the multiple spaces. I live in my village, and yet I'm part of the global women's movement. I'm part of the Zimbabwe women's movement and the Africa women's movement. And at times, I feel that when we talk about networks, we negate to sufficiently interrogate the issues of class. The issues of class, which then enables us to be very technocratic, middle class focused, and not sufficiently to recognize that women are organizing in their villages. With or without technology, they are meeting. They are changing the structures of how a funeral is managed. They are actually defining horticulture, which is the tomatoes we eat every day in the city. We must deconstruct and recognize that women's organizing is not in a mono-single space. It's the multiple spaces within which women organize, for which we need to strengthen those networks. And those networks are not just social networks. They're also faith networks. They're political networks. They're economic networks. So those networks are important in as much as the She Leads is saying it's about women deciding. that women are leading, women are influencing, women are part of the decision making. So for me, I'm very excited about how this program would reconstruct the space within which women are organizing for us to have the extensive impact that we're looking at. This program also, I love it. I love that it talks about women claiming their rights. When you claim, there are assumptions. There are assumptions that you have the ability, the capability, and the skills to claim. It assumes that the environment is enabling you to claim, or that claiming becomes part of the transformation of the environment within which you are claiming. So it's a transformative program. She Leads is not an instrumentalistic program for just having a number of women in decision making. It is a transformative program which enables us to question and to change the environment and the context within which women are leading. Just some key reflections. What I have seen and lived with is that the personal is political. When the personal is political, it means whatever you do every day in the decision that you make is influenced by power dynamics. And you are influencing the power dynamics, including even just what you are going to have for lunch or what you are going to wear. The very personal and private is very political. So we should take every decision that women make as a substantive policy decision which is influenced by many factors. Secondly, that every woman is a leader. What we don't have sufficiently is to affirm and elevate that leadership to the extent that it can be part of public policy. The private influences the public. When we engage on issues of women's participation in politics, there is many libraries full of books saying the social barriers to women's participation, negotiating with your spouse. At times people are even have so much, their boyfriends and girlfriends have so much influence on them that they can't make that decision. We are not even just talking about husbands. We are talking of boyfriends, and your personal, intimate friends can tell you, you're not going to do this, otherwise you lose me. So the very private influences the public participation of women. It could be, what would it mean for my grandmother, for my son, for my other social networks. So at times our programs do not sufficiently enable women to navigate the private, because we are just building skills on public communication, we are building skills on, we are not negotiating the private. I had to, when I left this country on a job in the UN, I had to negotiate the private. I had to negotiate with my husband. He was the most supportive. The most difficult were my brothers, who thought that patriarchy demands I should stay with their son-in-law than for me to go on a job, because they wanted to protect my marriage more than I protected myself. So the private is very political, and it can limit women's participation, and we need to be able to engage that. Women's leadership is not micro. Women's leadership is macro. I fear, I hate, I burn every day when we use language which limits recognition of women's influence. So I'm part of the development sector, as you know. I chair Action Aid. I've been part of the national and the international women's movement. There are certain words which we should just remove from our development lingo, which I'm very passionate about. There is no grassroots woman. Women are women in their communities and their leaders. There's no grassroots. The moment you say grassroots, you are ranking yourself, and you are actually putting her down. We are not elevating the recognition. There is nothing like rural women. It's women who live and work in rural communities. What is rural is not the woman. What is rural is her environment. And I may be living in Murewa. I live in Murewa. And yet I say I am a woman living in rural areas. And when we say I'm rural, Nyaradza, you are not. I am. I was born there, grew up there. The environment I live in is rural. So we need to deconstruct language. The word field, there's nothing like doing a field visit. You are not field visiting Munda, where you can go and plow and pluck and no, you're just visiting, you're doing a community visit. Language can enable leadership or can disable leadership of women at various levels. Language, when we are in public spaces and we are called girls, you are actually in a meeting as a senior leader and the girls have arrived, we are very happy. Why would me, who is a co-leader with everybody else, whether it's meeting of ministers or other board members, and we are happy the girls are here. Why are women leaders reduced to being girls? We should call out every time when labeling happens that demeans our leadership, that immediately confines our thought and thinking to another level. Women do not have a single narrative. And that is the power of women leading. You have heard who I am. I'm like everybody else. We have power in our multiple identities. How do we dig into the power of our multiple identities for us to be able to claim the right to political participation? When we are having the discussion in this country around liberation, I just would go into song and say, as a young girl, when I was growing up, would say, Semadzimai emuzimba bweta kamiriraja. Women on the front line fighting for liberation. So you can easily go into that identity, claim the power of experience and participation, demand accountability, demand the space of decision making. Or you can just immediately say, I'm a woman of faith, and you claim your own voice within that space. And you just quickly say any song, any prayer, and you claim that power. So let's, as we lead, claim our multiple identities in order to expand the space of influence. As I conclude, leadership is a journey. When she leads, she's not leading as an event. She's leading as a journey. It's a journey which has no end. Positional leadership is transient. But women's leadership in decision-making in society is perpetual. The experience that you learn when you are in positional leadership affects and influences your leadership in life forever, whether in a positive way or in a negative way. Therefore, the project that we are launching today is not about just the numbers, which can say, do we have the numbers for 2023? It's about how are we transforming the position of women to influence, to lead in perpetuity, and transforming the context of our work in Zimbabwe. Lastly, let me come back home to the context of our work. We have baskets and baskets and baskets of commitment. So many. The lawyers in us can scream all the chapters and clauses of from the gender parity principle in the Constitution, to the CEDAW, to the Maputo Protocol, to the gender parity, to the gender protocol of SADC, to the model laws. We're just launching the barometer the other day for SADC region. It's not about the laws at this moment. At this moment, I would not sit in a meeting where we are negotiating another law. It's about accountability to the existing law. That accountability for women to lead demands us to be courageous and bold, to name, to negotiate, and to insist. And I'm so happy that Ms. Virginia Mwanigwa from the Gender Commission is with us today. We have the 2013 Constitution, the Zimbabwe Constitution, which speaks of gender parity. At this moment in time, we should not be asking or questioning when appointments are made, where are the women? So I expected last week when there were vacancies that this would be an opportunity for Zimbabwe to increase, for the president to appoint more women, for us to reduce the gender parity in cabinet. That was my expectation. So I'm swallowing my disappointment. But we need to say appointive power should exercise the appointing authority in order for us to reduce inequalities of positional power where it's by appointment. Secondly, so it's not just about these appointments, it's at any level where there are vacancies, where there are opportunities. At times we hear the question, where are the women? Hey, we are 52% of the population, for God's sake. So we can't ask where are the women. The second question is, are they skilled enough? That question is never asked to men. We just see them appointed. And yes, we have skilled Zimbabwean women. They are there plenty. And so many organizations have databases like Robe and others. So the women are there in numbers, in skills, and in quality. So that argument does not hold water. It's about political will to implement the constitutional commitments. Secondly, in our context, the toxicity of the political environment is killing us. It's really, I dream of the Zimbabwe where women and men in this country can lead with tolerance, can agree to disagree with respect, because the current toxic environment limits the participation of women. How dare we enter that space where you are stripped, literally, where you feel so insecure, where you are questioned. We need a new culture which enables women to lead in this country, which enables us as a country to lead ourselves as a country, men and women, with respect, with tolerance, with acceptance. We don't have to agree with each other, but we have to respect each other. The moment we all become one song, one tune, we cease to be a creative society. A creative society, even in experiments, you have to try so many times. A creative society is that melting pot of ideas. I'm dreaming, I struggle. I want my Zimbabwe where we can disagree without being said, you're pulling me down, Emelda. It's okay to disagree. Even as women, it's okay for us as women to disagree. What we need to do is to do so respectfully. And what we need to do is to say there's the core minimum that as women we cannot disagree on. 50-50 decision making is one of them. Lastly, I just hope that the constitutional amendment, which is dealing with issues of affirmative action, would be looked at again, so that we actually have good strategies to move to 50-50. Yes, quota systems are important, but they are not sufficient and transformative enough. I just want to say thank you so much. I lead Rosaria Memorial Trust, and I want to welcome colleagues. She leads. My mother was leading from the village. She never chose my father. She dropped out of school in grade 3. She had 14 pregnancies. I'm her 14th pregnancy. She was a village woman who never came to the city. She led in a transformation of her community. And now we have formed the Rosaria Memorial Trust, which has been running for the next 12 years. And we really appreciate Hivos being a partner with us. We are leading from the womb of patriarchy and from the womb of our communities. And we want to invite you to visit us. We want to host one of your meetings there. Just take a drive out. It's a good drive down, 45 minutes here in Murewa. Again, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure, and I really value the opportunity to be out of the house as we continue to strive and struggle with COVID-19. Thank you very much.
Sis Nyaradze, thank you so much for those powerful words. Words I think that actually resonate with each and every one of us that is actually locked in at the moment. I just want to actually, I think, re-emphasize, especially you spoke about a lot of the times when we talk about women leadership, we are looking at what's in the public sphere. We are hardly talk about the private. And yet the private has a very key and important role to play. One thing I'm looking forward with this program, the She Leads project, is also to look at and formulate ways in which how we can support women leaders. Because a lot of the times we read, when we see people in newspapers, on TVs, online, they actually are appearing to be very powerful and strong and everything is going well. But sometimes I ask the question, when she's behind a closed door, who is there to support her? When she's behind a closed door, what is she thinking? How can she be supported? She Leads, we are hoping we can actually respond to that question and have something that responds to the needs of women in their public spaces, so that when they come to the public space, they are whole and able to take up their leadership. Now we actually are going to move to our last speaker for this morning, and it is my pleasure to welcome Her Excellency, Ambassador of Embassy of Ireland in Pretoria, Ambassador Fionnuala Gilsanan. I'm going to ask everyone to turn around and face the screen behind us. The ambassador is going to be speaking to us. She's currently in Ireland, and we thank you very much for taking the time to join us and be with us this morning. Over to you, Ambassador. Thank you. Ambassador Fionnuala Gilsanan. I'm going to ask everyone to turn around and face the screen. And thank you very much. Over to you, Ambassador. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity you this morning. I'm very sorry that I can't be there, but so these are very unique. So we had to take advantage of to communicate and be able to do that. So we're very first thing to say is, I mean, Ireland is really pleased to be able to support this project. You know, the whole issue of women's equality, gender equality, women's empowerment is extremely very central priority for us. When you think about the international context within which we support these kinds of projects, it's been 25 years since then we put together the Beijing platform, and 15 years since the Maputo Protocol was signed. So as nations across the world, we have a very strong set of commitments to work towards. And I think that we have to recognize that we've made some real progress over the number of decades, and by the previous speaker. And much of what's in the Zimbabwe, of course, draws inspiration from the Maputo Protocol and other international treaties that Zimbabwe is part of. But of us who are women, our societies critically, a long way to go, and what we promise is always a gap there that needs to be covered. And in a sense, these of projects and engagements are incredibly important, because what they prioritize is women's leadership. So it says all of us that aspire to achieve unless women step that are available, and in particular young women. So it pleases me hugely to see that this project prioritizes young leadership, and I think that we recognize that leadership at every level is important. So it's not just about national and international leadership, but it's about leadership in our own communities, in the organizations where we find ourselves, and being able to step forward and say, I will do this task, I will deliver this particular thing, I will achieve this. And that's essentially more complicated than deciding into the space and actually. Having said that, we also, economic for women to take up leadership positions that they might otherwise be willing or have the desire to. And I think, at the moment, everywhere, we're seeing the impact of COVID-19, the restrictions that have been put in place, and the impact that that's had on our ability to make a living. So that certainly needs to be acknowledged, that this is a difficult time for women to take up leadership. And of course, Zimbabwe is also dealing with an emerging humanitarian crisis that complicates further the situation. So I suppose I acknowledge your difficult not to do that. It would be disingenuous not to do that. But still to encourage you. There are many ways can be silent. And one of the ways that happens is really through gender-based violence. And although I couldn't hear everything that she said, private spaces, and we've seen right across the world. In Ireland, it's also been a big issue. In South Africa, where I'm living at the moment, increase in gender-based violence as women were confined to their homes with violent intimate partners or other members of their family that perpetrate violence. So we have, as women, seen a huge increase in the incidence of gender violence, and that of course affects us deeply on a psychological level, and also socially and politically, in terms of what we're prepared to do and how we're prepared to make ourselves vulnerable. So I think in that case, it's really important for the community, for the broader community, to come together, to devise strategies to try and protect women from violence at this time, so that you're able to engage in the kind of activities, development and leadership activities that are so important at this time. So I'll just conclude by saying that Ireland stands with Zimbabwe. We have a very strong and with Zimbabwe. Have worked in Zimbabwe for a long time, and that will endure of that friendship, that we provide the support to keep us to work and support young women in leadership, community level, political level, and everywhere where we stand up and want to be heard. Thank you very much to address you.
With us, and thanks to everyone else. I understand a few people had challenges with the sound, but I'm sure you are sorted now and we're able to follow the proceedings as we went. I think that concludes our launch this morning, and from here on we will have it will be a close call that will be issued out calling for proposals for this project. So I think using the normal channels, we will have that out to the relevant partners. Before I call on our last speaker, please just allow me a moment. It's a bit of an emotional moment. To Tanya. I first worked with Tanya as advisor at St. Culture before she became the regional director of HIVOS. Her visit to Zimbabwe, her first visit to Zimbabwe, we actually had the opportunity to take a road trip together to Bulawayo. And on our way back, having our fun and laughing together, we had a breakdown. And it was interesting, we had a breakdown somewhere in front of a roadblock. But we were quickly shooed away and told, move away. You had a breakdown, so the car is not moving. But you're told, move away, because you might be a danger to us. We don't know what your car has got. Anyway, we did what we could do, and it added to the adventure, because instead of being in Harare that same day, we had an extra night. I think we also had the opportunity to go to Zambia together. And this morning when Tanya arrived, she actually reminded me something. She said, my first event in Zimbabwe was something that you organized when I was still working with arts and culture, and we're launching the Mobility Fund. And then she said, my last event today is something that you are organizing as well. So yes, Tanya, I think that's us. It's a journey of organizing, and we will continue to organize. I wish you all the best as you leave us. I know it's not the last that we'll see you. You are a Murora. I could also go and speak to the kitchen party that we had with the girls, with the bondes and the Mugochis and the everything, but I think I'll save that for later. But I think just really from the women's movement, from the women's space, just to say thank you for your support. Thank you for being an advocate for women. I always say, I think in the work that we do, when people talk about advocates, normally the people working for development organizations are forgotten, but they don't know how much you are fighting to have those budgets in place. They don't know how much you are fighting to have those allocations that benefit all of us. And for that, I think in our journey over the last 7 years plus, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the encouragement, and wish you all the best where you're going. America, very driven team, and I wish you all the best. And as you said, you are in Hivos, we're still part of the same family. Definitely we'll continue to engage, but we'll also see you when you come back home for a visit. Allow me to welcome our last speaker for the day, Kennedy Mugochi. Kennedy is our acting director from when Tanya leaves. So it is actually again an honor to welcome Kennedy. Kennedy is our advocate in HIFOS as well. All the proposals and the programs we design under women empowerment, he is at the fore and right in the middle of it. So I don't think it's one way we'll feel as the women's movement, we actually are being shortchanged because we are losing Tanya, the woman, and getting a male in place. No, we are actually getting another advocate in place. And as I say, congratulations on your new role. I also just want to welcome you to give us a few words as we actually close today. Thank you, Kennedy.
Thanks, Tambu. Good morning, all of you, ladies and gentlemen, and those who are here and those who are following us on the different online platforms. My name is Kennedy, as Tambu has introduced me, and when I came this morning, she gave me a very strict brief that you are not doing speeches, you are not repeating, you are just doing a lot of things. So I'll comply. I hope you have enjoyed the proceedings as we launched the She Leads program, and I'm quite excited when I see programs and projects being launched from being a concept note to a proposal and now to the actual project, fully fledged project. It is my honor and privilege to give a vote of thanks to those who have made this launch successful. I would like to thank Irish Aid for their support and for partnering with us on this project. We don't take it for granted, especially in these difficult times. Thank you, Ambassador Fiona Gilsen, for setting aside some time this morning out of your busy schedule to be with us during this launch. Thank you so much. I also want to thank even colleagues from Irish Aid, whom we've worked with to ensure that this project becomes a success, and also the kickoff. I would like to thank the various speakers who have spoken moments ago. Tanya, thank you so much for the speech, and thank you for the leadership and guidance over the past 7 years and being an advocate for many projects, including women empowerment within HIVOS. And I wish you the best, and I know we'll keep connected. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Imelda. Thank you so much for inspiring speech. I was quite inspired, and we hope it's a journey that will continue as we interact with HIVOS. Even wishing you the best with your work with the Women's Coalition as well, as part of the committee. I'd like to thank Nyalaze Gumbochanda. Thank you so much. Quite inspiring, and I was standing there and I was absorbing everything, and I hope you also did absorb a lot. And so many thought-provoking nuggets, and thank you so much, and thank you for being a partner with HIVOS and for challenging us in other spaces, and also being whom you are. Thank you so much. Many thanks also go out to all who have attended this launch, and those who have participated via our online media platforms. Please keep following us on the different platforms for updates on this project and many others as well. Also, our media colleagues, thank you so much, and those who are assisting us with ICT equipment. I would like to thank you for a job well done. Last but not least, I would like to thank the HIVOS team that organized this event. Tambuzai, she did an amazing job, and she will be the project manager for this project. Thank you, Tambu, and Kevin, and also the logistics team. I think we've talked enough, and I'll give it a brief that don't stretch it more because of the nature of our meeting. I don't want to keep you like long standing on your legs, and also those who are watching online. But thank you. It's now time for action, and it's time for implementation. And I can assure you that as HIVOS and with our partners, we'll rise to the occasion and implement the project well. Thank you so much. We've come to the end of our proceedings, and I would like to invite you for some refreshments, if you don't mind. Thank you.